The incredible Nephilim revealed, a divine journey of transformation, faith, and redemption in 4K. In the days before the Great Flood, when the earth was filled with violence and corruption, a child was born in the land of Nod, the son of Methuselah, and named Jareth. His world was marred by chaos, shaped by the offspring of the fallen angels, the Nephilim, whose towering figures filled the hearts of men with fear and awe. These giants roamed the earth, reveling in might and sin, casting shadows over the faithful who yearned for righteousness amidst the wickedness that surrounded them. Despair lingered heavily in the air, as the cries of the oppressed mingled with the laughter of the revelers. Murmurs of bloodshed, lust, and blasphemy echoed through the valley. Jareth often stood before the great oaks, grappling with the legacy bestowed upon him by his father and grandfather, threats pressing in from every side, while the alluring promise of power radiated from the Nephilim. Each day, temptation wrapped around his heart like a constricting vine. Underneath the burden of this wicked age, Jareth sought refuge in prayer, where silence cloaked him, yet the weight of the world pressed even heavier. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a fiery hue, he climbed the hill that bore the echoes of Enoch. Alone, atop the sacred height, he raised his voice. "O Lord of hosts, how can you allow such beings to dwell upon the earth?" The winds gave no response, only a chilling silence met his anguished plea, amplifying the tumult within his soul. Yet in that stillness a new-found resolve began to blossom. The tales of his ancestors surged through his mind, a covenant of hope beckoning him from the depths of despair. Jareth recalled Noah, who had walked righteously, chosen to rescue faith amid corruption. Memories of David and the courage they exhibited despite giants danced before him, igniting a spiritual fire within. Could it be that God's plan was not yet finished? As rumors of Noah building an enormous ark began to weave through the hearts of the faithful, Jareth knew what he must do. He descended the hill of prayer, determination surging in his veins. Gathering those few who still clung to faith, he urged them to unite with Noah, to bolster their resolve. As he spoke fervently, he could feel the mocking eyes of neighbors bearing down upon him, emboldened by their disbelief. Doubts clawed at him like ravenous beasts. What if they too faced scorn and ridicule? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today.
Tell me in the comments which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey. I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The horizon loomed dark with ominous storm clouds, both in the skies above and in the spirits of those around him. Jareth stood at a precipice, weighed down by threats looming ahead, and with each breath the towering specters of the Nephilim cast their shadows long across his thoughts. His faith flickered like a candle threatened by the winds of doubt. Would he take that leap of faith, even as the rain of judgment threatened their fragile world? The choice before him shimmered with divine potential, yearning for a bold response as the promise of salvation echoed through the ages, waiting for one who would dare to believe amidst the storm. As the days grew darker and the rain clouds gathered ominously above, the hearts of men trembled at the thought of divine judgment, which loomed like a specter across the land. Jareth, emboldened by the words of his forebears and the growing conviction within, gathered the faithful. They convened beneath the ancient oaks, roots twisted like the destinies they faced, seeking guidance and strength. Each took turns recounting the tales of old, how the Lord had delivered his people from danger, how he had parted the sea and quenched the fires of wrath. "Let us not despair," Jareth spoke, his voice steady amidst the rising winds. "The Lord is our refuge. We must help Noah, who is chosen to preserve the remnant of humanity. Together we shall build faith as he builds the ark." Yet dissent echoed from the shadows. The mockery of the neighbors filled the air, deriding the idea of salvation by an unyielding God. "You foolish ones," they cried, "what is this madness? No rain falls, and no flood cometh. You would waste your days to heed the ravings of a madman?" Their laughter ricocheted through the valley, a cacophony of disbelief swirling around the faithful, attempting to quench the flickering flame of hope. But Jareth's resolve did not wane. Each derisive word only fueled the fire of his spirit. He led his companions to the site where Noah's great vessel took form, a monstrous structure rising from the earth, a symbol of faith against the tide of despair. As they labored beside Noah, the mocking voices faded into the distance, overwhelmed by the sound of hammers striking wood and the blessed unity of purpose. Then, one evening, as the workers toiled under the fading light of day, a rumbling in the heavens broke the silence. It rolled like thunder over the hills, and clouds gathered above, dark and foreboding. The atmosphere thickened with an electric anticipation, and the air shimmered with heavenly forewarning. Without warning, the first drops of rain began to fall, a gentle patter upon the earth that quickly transformed into a torrential downpour.
Moisture, once a distant threat, now cascaded from the heavens, soaking the soil and sending the Nephilim into frenzied wrath around the towns. Their shouts of anger replaced with fear, they rushed to claim dominion over the hearts of men. Yet it was the faithful who clung to hope, strengthened by the promises spoken long ago. Amidst the chaos, Jareth called out, "Fear not, faithful servants of the Lord. The God of Noah will not forget his promise. Stand firm, for salvation approaches even through the storm." United, they remained steadfast at the ark's side, arms intertwined, a fortress of faith against the rising tide of calamity. With every drop that fell, memories of God's covenant with Noah, spoken with fervent clarity, reverberated in their minds. The promise of the rainbow awaited them on the other side, a symbol of hope in the midst of despair. As the waters surged and the earth trembled, a divine clarity illuminated Jareth's heart. Was it not the Nephilim who sought to pierce the veil between flesh and spirit? But had they now become the very instruments of their own reckoning? The echoes of the past returned, compelling him to declare, "The time of reckoning is at hand. No weapon forged against us shall prevail." In that moment the heavens opened, and amidst the deluge clarity descended upon the faithful. God's sovereign plan unfolded before their eyes, revealing the ultimate purpose behind the trials they faced. What judgment he wrought upon the earth in this hour was not merely destruction, but a cleansing, a rebirth for those who believed. For as the rain turned fierce and the flood waters rose, was it not but a reflection of the faith sweeping across a remnant, preparing for the dawning of a new world? The covenant remained unbroken, and a promise was at hand, awaiting the chosen to prevail in faith against all odds. And thus the gripping question hung in the air, pregnant with divine promise. What would the Lord unveil next amidst the raging storms of judgment, as the very foundations of the earth trembled under his command? As the storm unleashed its mighty torrent upon the earth, the faithful gathered closer to the ark, hearts beating in synchronized rhythm with the patter of raindrops.
The low rumble of thunder reverberated not only through the heavens, but also within the spirits of men, stirring a mix of fear and awe. Jareth felt the weight of destiny upon his shoulders, a burden made lighter by the presence of his companions. Together they formed a bulwark against the despair threatening to engulf them. The flood waters lapped at the edges of their resolve, pushing against the very foundations of their faith. Voices rose in urgent prayer, each supplication a strand woven into the tapestry of divine hope. Jareth, lifting his eyes towards the ever-darkening sky, spoke with authority. Brothers and sisters, even in the heart of this tempest, let us not lose sight of the mighty hand of our God. His plan is unfolding even now.
Stand firm in faith. Noah, still toiling with fervent devotion, looked upon the faces of those who aided him with gratitude. "Blessed are you who believe," he declared, his voice resolute. "For it is not by mere sight that we shall be saved, but by the unwavering trust in His word. The storm is but a precursor to His divine promise." Suddenly, as if in response to Noah's declaration, the heavens opened wider, unleashing a torrent as if the very reservoirs of creation had burst forth. The faithful could only watch as waves loomed, fierce and unyielding. With an urgency unmatched, they prepared as the ark swayed, their last refuge against the chaos surrounding them. Yet amid the crashing sound of the deluge, whispers of doubt permeated the air. The Nephilim, once mocking from the periphery, called out, their voices laced with venomous scorn. "Where is thy God, O foolish ones? He cannot save you now. The waters rise as he hides from your cries." Their confidence, once intoxicating, now trembled in the reality they faced. But Jareth, steeling his heart against despair, raised his voice above the fray. "Remember his promises, for the rain shall cleanse the earth, and every drop is a testament to his fidelity. And we, his remnant, shall be preserved. He has not abandoned us." As the waters roared around them, Noah stood firm, taking his place at the threshold of the ark. "Heed my call, O children of the covenant. Enter now into safety, for the time of judgment has come, and he shall make a distinction between those who serve him and those who do not." Then, just as the flood threatened to burst forth entirely, an extraordinary sight drew forth their gaze. The clouds momentarily parted, and a radiant light broke through, an ethereal promise amidst despair. A dove circled above, a silent herald of hope entwined with grace. As hours turned into what felt like days, the ark drifted on the waves of calamity, preserving within its wooden belly the breath of every living creature that God deemed worthy. The oppressing weight of darkness had seemingly transformed into something palpable, a promise so alive that they could almost revel in its glory even in their dire circumstance. For it was in this divine suspension of time that Jareth recognized the depth of God's plan. Was this storm a mere punishment, or the birth pangs of a new creation? As the waters surged around them, the faintest flicker of a dawn began to unveil itself in the hearts of the faithful. "Amid these floodwaters, transformation awaits us," he declared passionately, his heart filled with divine anticipation. "What vivid new existence does the Lord hold for us beyond these trials?" And thus, with every rising wave, the question hung heavy, waiting to be unwrapped. What new covenant might God reveal through the remnants of this storm, as the dawn of a new world awaited their unwavering faith? And the rains continued to pour, relentless and unyielding, as if the very heavens sought to cleanse the earth of its iniquity.
Within the ark, a stillness enveloped the faithful, yet in their hearts there surged a tempest of hope, tempered by the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Jareth looked around at those huddled close, each face illuminated by the flickering light of their unwavering faith. "Family in faith," he called, his voice steady amidst the ominous roar of the floods. "Let our hearts be as one, for though our eyes behold darkness, our spirits shine with the light of his promise. Let us recount his faithfulness, for it is he who guides our steps even through the shadow of despair." Noah now, clasping tightly to the doorway, surveyed the faces of his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives, steadfastly determined. "God's command is upon us," he spoke, the creaking of the ark echoing the urgency of his proclamation. "Let us not falter in our allegiance. His covenant is sure, and the promise of a new beginning lies ahead. Lift up your prayers, our God hears you." In that moment the waters surged violently, knocking against the ark with an almost animalistic ferocity. Waves cascaded like the fury of 1,000 storms. Beneath, the powers that had long been restrained, beasts and the unholy echoes of the Nephilim, seemed to awaken, clamoring against the very barriers placed by God. Yet amid their tumult, Jareth stood firm, proclaiming boldly, "These waters shall purge the earth. The echoes of our trials will yield to testimonies that resonate through generations. For every drop that falls is a reminder that God will not forget his people." As if in response to his declaration, a flash of lightning tore through the sky, illuminating the silhouettes of gnarled limbs and ancient forms thrashing amidst the storm. The Nephilim, grotesque and mighty, appeared from the shadows of chaos, their voices rising like a cacophonous howl. "You who cower within the wood, do you think your faith can withstand us? We are the conquerors of the land." With a fierce resolve, Noah stepped forward, urging the faithful beside him. "Fear not, for our God is a warrior. He will rise against them and shield us from their malevolence. Remember, his might is greater than all their strength." As thunder rolled like the sound of 1,000 chariots, the ark quaked, but inside the faithful remained unyielding. Jareth was seized with strength, and he turned to his companions. "Let us offer praises to him who sits enthroned above the flood, for even in this raging storm he prepares us for what is to come." Suddenly, in the raging darkness, a spark, a luminescent figure emerged through the sheets of rain. It resembled a woman, radiant and clothed in brilliance, bearing forth a message like broad wings opening anew. For as it drew closer, a deep voice resonated, "Fear not, O children of the covenant. The Lord has sent forth a new decree. This storm is not simply judgment, but an opportunity for rebirth. Through this deluge he shall lay bare his plan and bring forth a new creation." At that moment, the hearts of the faithful ignited with fervor anew. The denizens of the ark joined with the song of the heavens, their voices intertwining as one in sacred unity, the sound that pierced through the storm, reaching the very throne of grace. And amidst the despair, hope wove itself through their voices, echoing the promise of restoration. At that sacred juncture, as the waters climbed ever higher, a voice reverberated, "Are you ready to be transformed? For beyond this tempest lies a wondrous dawn, one that shall unveil the true nature of the covenant." Thus, as the storm raged on, anticipation steeped the air. They were not left desolate, but rather poised on the precipice of God's magnificent revelation. What would this new beginning herald? What ancient secrets would surface, revealing God's sovereign hand in the midst of the tempest? The question lingered, waiting to be unveiled in His divine timing. As the waters continued to rise with unrelenting force, the ark became a sanctuary, a refuge fortified by faith, even as chaos roared outside. Inside, the air hung thick with a presence that both frightened and comforted. The faithful knew they were under the watchful gaze of the Almighty, who orchestrated the tempest for His purpose. Noah turned to his sons, whose faces bore the lines of anxiety mingled with hope. "Let us not merely survive this storm," Noah urged. "Rather, let us live, for it is within these trials that our hearts shall be forged anew." Shem nodded, gripping the wooden beams of the ark, while Ham remained contemplative, and Japheth gazed beyond the veil of water. "Remember His promise to us," Shem exclaimed, his voice rising above the cacophony. The fervor of his words ignited the spirits of their companions, and soon chants of prayer and song flowed as one, a melodious echo of faith amidst the turmoil. Suddenly, as they raised their praises, the very heavens trembled. Another flash of lightning illuminated the skies, revealing more than just the fearsome figures of the Nephilim. It unveiled a dark mass swirling within the depths of the waters. The monstrous forms were countless, concealed by torrents, yet now visible in the stark illumination. "Look!" Ham shouted, as fear gripped his heart. "It is a sign of our deliverance," Noah declared with bold assurance, gazing into the storm. "Whatever emerges today, we stand at the threshold of the Lord's design. We shall not succumb to fear, but embrace the destiny He unfolds before us." The voices of the witnesses rose in unison, drowning out the howls of the Nephilim. As they proclaimed the holiness of the Lord, rain soaked their skin, yet they felt no chill. Instead, warmth radiated within them, a sign that the Spirit was moving.
Jareth, feeling the fire of faith swell in his chest, turned to face the storm. "O Lord, wield your power. Show us your strength and unveil your glory. We are here as vessels for your use, dressed in the armor of faith." In that sacred moment, the winds howled in agreement, hastening the embrace of the faithful who were unshaken. And then, from the tempest, a voice thundered, deep and commanding. "I shall rise against the giants of the earth. The Nephilim shall be subdued, and their boasting shall turn to bewilderment. For upon the chaos of these waters I weave a new tapestry, one wherein my people shall find their purpose, their calling." And with every word that echoed through the storm, pulses of power vibrated in the hearts of those within the ark. The shadows of dread began to scatter, and the darkness trembled before the radiance of the Almighty's assurance. "Be steadfast," the voice called, "for the dawn approaches when light shall fracture the gloom, and from the ashes of this judgment shall emerge a new beginning." As the ark creaked and swayed amidst the fury, a fierce wind blew, sending waves crashing against its sides. Yet inside, the faithful stood resolute. The mighty Nephilim, sensing a shift in the atmosphere, turned towards the ark, their shrieks mingling with the howling winds. "We will not be ruled again," they bellowed, desperation buried in their rebellious pride. The light of the divine enveloped the ark, promising protection against their raw might.
And as the battle between faith and fury roared, Jareth's heart quickened. What wonders are yet to unfold, he wondered aloud, filled with anticipation of what the next hour would bring. As darkness raced against the light, the ark pressed on, shielded by the sovereign hand of God. What did he see on the horizon? What would emerge from this deluge to fulfill his divine promise? As the intensity of the storm refined them, the faithful awaited revelation, their souls woven into the sacred mystery of his unfolding plan. As the tempest swirled and raged with a fury unmatched, the inhabitants of the ark clung to hope like a beacon in the darkness. Noah, sensing the shifting tides, turned once more to his family, the allegiance of their hearts intertwined in purpose. "Brothers," he called, his voice steady against the winds, "though the world threatens to consume us, remember the promise spoken to our forefather. He shall not abandon the faithful." His words hung in the air, a lifeline thrown amidst the chaos. Suddenly, a great roar came from the depths below. The Nephilim surged, their monstrous forms becoming more distinct against the darkness, stirred by the heavenly voice that outlined their doom. They writhed and twisted in fury. "Your faith is futile," they mocked, their voices rolling like thunder across the waters. But within the ark a profound peace settled, like dew upon the grass.
Shem, emboldened by his father's words, stepped forward, raising his hands in defiance. "Your threats bear no weight before the Almighty. The earth shall echo with his word, and your pride shall be your downfall." His declaration ignited a fervor among the faithful, and they began to roar their own battle cry, "Yahweh reigns!" The waters quaked, flinging the waves into a frenzy, yet the ark remained steady, a symbol of resilience against the test of the storm. The winds howled a mournful serenade, carrying the aroma of impending judgment and a birth of something new. "Lord, fulfill your promise," came a voice from within the ark. Jareth, filled with divine zeal, clasped his hands in urgent prayer. In heavenly realms the atmosphere shifted. Angels sent forth to watch over this remnant saw the faithfulness of their cries and soared closer to the vessel of God's covenant. They whispered words of comfort and strength, weaving around the ark, declaring, "Fear not, for deliverance is at hand." Amidst the swirling chaos, Noah felt the divine presence emboldening him. "I shall speak," he resolved. All eyes turned to him, anticipation sparking within their hearts. Standing tall, he raised his hand, still shaking from the turmoil. "O great God, the creator of all that lives and breathes, turn the hearts of these giants, that they may witness your power." As if in answer, the skies darkened further, and a crack of lightning illuminated the fierce faces of the Nephilim, fury written upon their brows. But as they surged closer, the waters roiled, revealing an even greater danger lurking beneath. Shapes stirred, monsters of a different breed, as the spirit of chaos uncoiled itself, the boundaries of creation and destruction wavering perilously. "Behold!" cried Ham, his eyes wide, "the waters are alive with judgment. Can you hear it?" His words electrified the air. Something ancient and powerful was surfacing, revealing the depths of the Lord's fist, moving as a tide against the unholy. Noah gripped the railing, watching as serpentine forms broke the surface with sharp eyes, each one displaying gravitas. What
Terrors lurk beneath this flood, he murmured, fathoming the weight of his thoughts. Then, with a resounding clash, the ark felt the full brunt of the Nephilim's wrath. "We will rise!" they screamed, seeking to turn the faithful from their unwavering gaze. "All shall be consumed!" Yet within the ark, faith flared brighter. "Hold fast," Noah commanded, his voice trembling with intensity, "for the darkness of this hour breaks forth into dawn." As the waves crashed, the shadows danced, and confusion reigned, a promise ignited in the hearts of Noah's family. In their unity, they began to recall the vision of salvation bestowed upon them, the coming restoration, the land waiting to bloom anew once judgment had passed over. But even now, a whisper prevailed amidst the din, a revelation yet mantled in divine mystery.
What power shall be unleashed once the waters recede? What destiny lies ahead when the dust settles and the new world rises forth? With breath held as tightly as their faith, they prepared for the forthcoming storm's culmination, poised to witness the majesty of God's sovereign plan unfurling before their very eyes. As the tempest reached its ferocity, the screams of the Nephilim echoed through the air, intertwining with the primal roar of the raging storm. The ark trembled, as if the very foundations of creation were in opposition to the might of the giants. Yet within, the atmosphere thickened with faith, a sanctuary amid chaos. Noah turned to his family, eyes glistening with fierce determination. "Remember, my beloved, the heavens are our witness. The Lord has set his mark upon us. Trust in his deliverance." His voice resonated through the wooden chamber, mingling with the prayers rising like incense towards the heavens. Methuselah, aged yet steadfast, knelt in humble worship. "O Lord of hosts, you who ordered the waters and commanded the night, silence the mockery of these powerful foes." Shem clasped his father's shoulder, emboldened by his resolve. "We are not alone. Their threats are but fleeting echoes in the presence of our God. The promise of the Most High is our shield." The strength of their unity formed a barrier against despair, fueling their resolve. The Nephilim, their monstrous silhouettes entwined with shadows, advanced upon the ark, howling with fury. "You think your prayers can save you?" one screeched, its voice a jarring cacophony. "Your fate is sealed, survivable only by the darkness. The Creator has abandoned you." But lo, as they charged, the skies themselves parted, heralding the might of God. A clap of thunder resonated, and from the depths of the abyss arose a tumult of voice and power. From the void a light beamed down, illuminating the chaos, a promise lingering in the storm. "See!" cried Ham, his eyes wide in disbelief. "The sea is turning, the depths recoil." Like a serpent uncoiling, the waters churned, drawing back as if to witness the clash of titans set upon the world. The scales of judgment were tipping, a preface to the unfolding drama of divine will. Noah knew their cries were not merely twisted threats, but an echo of the very judgment that awaited them. He gathered his family closer, whispering with urgency, "We must cling to our covenant, for Isaiah spoke, 'When the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard against him.'" Strengthened by those sacred words, the hearts of the 8 pressed together, affirming their purpose while the storm swirled outside. "Yahweh reigns," they voiced again, like a mighty army ready to receive their commission.
In a sudden flash, the serpentine forms beneath the waters surged forth, waves crashing against the ark, revealing horrors from the deep. Leviathan, link of the ancient sea, resurfaced through the foam, its eyes burning with unfathomable rage. The Nephilim halted, a glimmer of trepidation crossing their features. Noah could see the fear etched in their very beings, realizing their defiance would bring forth the wrath they sought to deny. "Spirits of chaos!" Noah bellowed against the storm, his profound conviction overcoming the tremors in his heart. "The Lord is our fortress, he shall tread upon the high places. You forsake him, yet he is coming forth on behalf of his people." The darkness recoiled as though to flee from the advancing presence of the Holy One. The ground shook, a prelude to transformation, as a great weight fell upon the adversaries. Noah's family felt it too, the world's foundation bending toward a new creation. "Be still, he is here!" Jareth cried, lifting his arms in desperation, invoking the very essence of peace amidst turmoil. As the storm raged and the darkness writhed, a sacred stillness filled the ark. The fate of both the faithful and the forsaken hung in the balance. Yet as silence wrapped around them, a divine revelation pierced their hearts like a beacon. What is the purpose of this wrath and wonder? What covenant shall God establish from this unraveling? And so they waited, the promise of resolution veiled within the downpour, the unfurling of God's sovereign plan just beyond the veil, stirring the waters and beating upon the hearts of his faithful remnant. As the storm roared like the voice of 1,000 thunderclaps, the ark swayed with each surging wave, yet within its wooden walls a sanctuary emerged, steadfast against the turmoil outside. The family of Noah, enveloped in prayer and hope, sensed the weight of history shifting as the waters churned. Suddenly a luminous glow broke through the darkness, and before Noah could comprehend its full import, the air was charged with a presence they recognized, the very breath of God stirring among them. "Great is thy faithfulness, O Lord," Methuselah proclaimed, his voice breaking through the cacophony, a harbinger of the profound transformation unfolding. Shem, his hands clasped in fervent prayer, raised his voice above the din. "With every wave that crashes, our hope mounts higher. The Lord whom we serve is greater than any adversary." His words ignited a divine energy within each art, a reminder of the covenant made long ago. Yet the Nephilim, seeing the illuminated ark, laughed in their blasphemy. "Fools, this light cannot save you. You are isolated in your delusion," they shrieked, their voices like splintering wood. But within the ark a cry of unity arose. "Let us not waver." Ham's voice rang clear and determined. "The God of Abraham and Isaac is our God. He sees us even in the dark." In that moment, a palpable force of faith coalesced around them, forming an invisible shield against the antagonism embodied by the sheer enormity of the giants outside.
Noah, lifting his hands heavenward, uttered words that resonated deeper than the thundering skies. "O Lord, we hold fast to your promise. The waters shall not overwhelm us, and your mercy will prevail." With those uttered words, faith wove a tapestry of security around the hearts of his family, drowning out the taunts of the wicked. Then, as if in acknowledgment of his servant's plea, the heavens quaked. Lightning danced across the tumultuous sky, a harbinger of divine intervention. The Nephilim staggered back, dread filling their gazes, as Leviathan, a manifestation of God's power, arched and writhed beneath the boisterous waves. They stumbled against one another, terror striking at their very core.
"Look!" Jareth shouted, pointing toward the expanse of now tumultuous waters. "The sea is becoming a wall before us." The waters formed a chasm, a divide drawn by the hand of God. With each crashing wave, the promise of liberation began to take form. The contrast grew stark as creation itself bore witness to the potency of God's decree. The ark stood unmoved, a beacon of salvation, while the raging storm signaled the Almighty's wrath against unrighteousness. His anger will not last forever, Noah reminded them, a calm conviction threading his voice. For those who trust in his name will never be forsaken. Yet even as the transformation began, an unsettling thought stirred deep within Noah's anxious heart. What will become of those who defy the covenant? Questions that burdened his spirit hovered like shadows, waiting to be unveiled in the midst of the rising chaos. And so they held fast, praying with the fervency of souls anchored in hope. The ark swayed, yet did not fall. The tempest raged, yet could not conquer. A divine tension filtered through the air, the shaking promise of what was yet to come, the unfolding of a narrative woven from both wrath and mercy, a history written by the hand of God. "Is this day not the hour of reckoning?" Methuselah murmured, sensing the equilibrium tipping. "What covenant shall come forth from this deluge?" As they awaited an answer, an electric anticipation filled the air. The gates of heaven seemed almost ajar, revealing glimpses of an unfolding plan, a destiny entwined in God's sovereign purpose, a promise waiting to be fulfilled. "For the Lord shall make a new covenant at the dawn of a new beginning." Thus the faithful remained, steadfast within the ark, hearts stirring with a rising truth, the realization that the seeds of redemption were germinating in the midst of trial. For God was not merely a bystander, but the architect of deliverance, his sovereign will drawing ever closer. As the roar of the tempest continued to encircle the ark, Noah's family remained locked in prayer, their faith a cohesive force against the looming dread of the storm. The weight of their ancestral burdens mixed with the thrill of hope as the Spirit of the Lord stirred amongst them. "Fear not, for the Almighty is our refuge." Noah declared once more, his voice reverberating with an unwavering assurance of God's promises. Each word was a nail securing the foundation of faith they had built together through the years. "Remember the word of the Lord that came to me, saying, Noah, I will establish my covenant with you. You shall enter the ark, you and your sons, and your wife, and your sons' wives with you." His words were lifted into the storm as an echo returning in strength from the heavens above. As they grasped the profound weight of that covenant, the shadows beyond the ark twisted ominously. The Nephilim roamed the tumultuous waters, their laughter mingling with the howling winds, casting forth mocking challenges. "The gods you serve are deaf to your pleas," they taunted, their towering forms juxtaposed against the holy light radiating from within the ark. "Let them mock," Shem replied, his heart alight with fervor. "We are not alone. God is with us." His proclamation surged as the waters churned violently, and in that moment the foundations of the world were uncertain. The giants, seemingly emboldened by their grotesque strength, charged against the very fabric of creation. Yet as they approached the ark, the sea swelled wrathfully, forcing them back, a clear testament to the divine protection surrounding the faithful. Then a great hush fell over the tempest, a sacred pause that vibrated with the tension of anticipation. A profound silence preceded the revelation unfolding in the hearts of Noah's family. Methuselah, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, pressed his hand upon Noah's shoulder with a firm grip of reassurance. The Lord is orchestrating a grand tapestry, Noah. This storm, this deluge, everything we face is a canvas upon which His divine will is painting. As waves crashed and roared like 1,000 roaring lions, the earth beneath the ark abruptly trembled again, this time with a gentler cadence, as if the very essence of creation was bracing for what was about to manifest. In that enigmatic stillness enveloped by chaos, the voice of God resounded clearly to Noah. I will bring forth a remnant through you, a new beginning for my creation. Unbeknownst to them, beyond the horizon, the first drops of rain began to meld with the anger of the waves, forming a barrier between the faithful and the unfaithful, a divine delineation separating those who walked in righteousness from those entrenched in wickedness. Lord, reveal your ways, Noah cried, as the ark swayed with the reverberating surge of the waves, yet remained unbroken. The glimmers of light from within illuminated their faces, signifying hope amidst despair, as the truth solidified in their hearts. The flood would cleanse the earth and herald a new dawn. At that moment, the voice of the Lord sent tremors through the wood of the ark. Fear not, for I shall remember my covenant with you, and my promise shall not go unfulfilled.
With each utterance, the air thickened with divine promise, resonating deep within their spirits. Just as dawn awaited its moment to break, a prophetic whisper filled the air, "For I shall exalt the humble and bring low the prideful." What enigma loomed beyond the impending deluge? The thoughts of Noah returned once more. What shall be the fate of those lost? As they grasped the gravity of their calling, their prayers surged forth, an undying flame of faith reaching towards the heavens, yearning to pierce the turmoil and seek understanding amidst a world enshrouded by chaos. The promise pulsed like a heartbeat within them, as if to remind them that within divine judgment lay the seeds of salvation. The darkness seemed to keenly intercede as Methuselah's voice kindled hope again. Will he not fulfill his word? As the storm roared louder, the very earth itself awaited the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, for a new covenant was indeed on the horizon, the dawn of a future yet to be revealed, where mercy would triumph over wrath. And lo, as the storm raged on, the waters swelled, and the ark became the very nexus of divine promise, encircled by grace even amidst dread. The faithful pressed together, the bond of their shared journey becoming a tapestry woven by the Creator's hand. Each soul within the ark pulsed with a fervent anticipation, understanding that the culmination of hope and judgment was at hand. Noah, standing ever vigilant, turned to his family and declared, "Hear me, beloved, for the Lord has spoken. He shall not forsake his own." His voice rang true within the wooden walls, echoing across the floodwaters. Amidst the chaos, we shall witness his glory unveiled. As if on cue, the skies erupted in divine spectacle, a flash of brilliance that seared through the dark canvas of storm clouds. The Nephilim, towering and fierce outside the ark, faltered, their wicked confidence shaken before the dawning realization of their impending doom. "What power binds them?" one of them cried, bluster swaying in their voice. Jareth, emboldened by the swelling tide of faith within, lifted his voice higher. "Your arrogance shall be your downfall, for the Creator of all commands this storm, you who thought yourselves greater than the one who formed the heavens." His words rippled with divine authority, light piercing through shadows as if answering a call long forgotten by the forces of evil.
The mighty waters began to shift. The currents danced as Leviathan arose from the deep, roaring its defiance against the Nephilim. The sea surged back, entwining judgment and mercy in an embrace befitting the architect of creation. The Creator's will cannot be thwarted, Noah bellowed, arms outstretched, aware that even in this tempest salvation surged forth. And in that sacred moment a soft yet mighty sound reverberated through the heart of the ark, a whisper oppressing the clamor of despair. "Fear not, O faithful, for I am here."
The voice of the Lord coursed through like a river, flooding hearts with a renewed spirit. With fervent hearts, Noah's family responded in unison, "We will not waver. Our faith has led us thus far, and it shall carry us through." As they held hands, fervent prayers and songs of praise erupted from their lips, filling the air with the aroma of holy devotion. Each word spoke of the covenant they had embraced, declaring the faithfulness of God, unwavering even in the moment of trial. Now, behold, the tempest, once a harbinger of destruction, began to recede, yielding to the sovereign command of the Almighty. Ebbing waters unveiled the remnants of the once mighty giants, thrashing under the divine currents. The Nephilim grasped at shadows receding before the relentless tide of faith and unity mounted behind the ark. In awe, Jareth watched as the water levels fell, revealing undercurrents of ancient terror, now powerless against the will of those sealed within God's promise. "The time has come for rebirth," he proclaimed, heart racing with revelation. "This flood, which was once a sign of divine judgment, shall unfold into a canvas of grace." The skies parted, and an ethereal light descended, bathing the ark in warmth. The faithful, once bound by fear, now felt the sweet embrace of hope as the last vestiges of despair evaporated like morning mist. The crescendo of their songs peaked, dancing across the surface of the waters, heralding a new dawn. Suddenly, Noah lifted his staff, and with a voice tempered by reverence he declared, "Let us now look upon the land that awaits. As the waters recede, we embark on a new covenant with our God. Let it be known that faith shall triumph over darkness." And so it was that as the flood waters diminished, the ark rested upon the mountaintop, a sanctuary untouched and preserved, a testament echoing across generations. The faithful began to emerge, stepping out into the promise of a new beginning, renewed and invigorated in the light of their Lord's deliverance. The heavens' floor opened, and as they emerged, the sun beamed down in radiant glory, a testament to the faithfulness of their God, pouring forth blessings like rain. A rainbow stretched across the sky, a covenant sealed in brilliance, adorned with the hues of promise, an everlasting reminder that salvation had come through the storm, and that God's faithfulness would prevail. The hearts of the faithful were transformed, each soul renewed by the mighty hand of God, illuminated by the hope that had triumphed against folly. And thus the monumental journey of Jareth and his kin bore witness to the profound mystery of God's enduring love. They gathered, united in purpose, looking towards the vast expanse of creation, ready to embrace the world anew in faith, a world reborn from the ashes of a tempest, rebuilt through obedience, grace, and the promise that God at last reigns eternal. Now, dear brethren, as we reflect on this pivotal moment in testimony, remember to subscribe immediately to this channel for more powerful biblical stories that transform hearts and renew minds. Leave a like right now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, igniting hope in every corner of our digital community. Do not forget to comment with your reflections on how this incredible story impacted your faith. Your voice is vital in proclaiming His truth. and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's light in the midst of darkness. You need to be part of this sacred call to spread the narrative of salvation. Don't wait even one more second to be an agent of divine hope.